Business is officially on easy mode when you have a YouTube channel. And in this video, I'm gonna break down 5 reasons and a bonus reason why that is, why it makes your life so freaking easy when you have a YouTube channel. And at this point, I wouldn't even say like, this is why you should start a YouTube channel. Like moving forward in 2025, it is absolutely mandatory to have a YouTube channel or you will continue to lose sales to all of your competitors that do have YouTube channels. Now, before we jump into these 6 reasons, you're probably like, who the heck is this guy that's coming up on my YouTube homepage? My name is Aaron Martinez. I've been doing content online for the last 18 years of my life, really longer than in my life I have been doing content than I haven't. And I've been doing this full time for the last 10 years as well. And I've seen so many platforms come and go. And because I've been on YouTube for the last 12 years, I believe I have a lot to say on this specific topic. And we generated over $4 million over the last 2 to 3 years with YouTube specifically. So I'm just gonna tell you exactly how it is from not only a views, but a money-making perspective. So jumping into the first reason here, and this is probably the one that everybody talks about, right? They say it's really great for YouTube because it helps with your marketing and it helps you generate more leads. Now, obviously I put that number 1 because everyone talks about it. And of course, when you post on YouTube, you do tend to generate more leads. But instead of just sitting here and saying like, being on YouTube will help you generate more leads, I need to help you understand the U method and product phenomenon that happens when marketing on YouTube, or really just marketing in general. So let's jump over to that. All right, guys, future Aaron popping in. Let's talk a little bit more on the marketing aspect because I feel like people talk about like, yeah, YouTube and Instagram, they're so great, but like these 3 things here is the main reason why it works so well. So we do need to take one step back in terms of like, why do people buy in general? Because if you don't understand that, then it's gonna be really difficult to make sales in the first place. So why do people buy something in the first place, right? And we're talking more specifically like online education programs, but in order for someone to buy your specific thing, they need to be sold on these things, 3 things, right? And we can say sold on these things and trust these 3 things. They need to be sold on and trust in you as a person. They need to be sold on and trust in the method, and they need to be sold on the product. So this is easy, right? Like you is just you as a person, right? So we'll just put person, right? The method is your specific way to reach their end goal that they're looking for. So let's just say, for example, you are, and I know I use these examples all the time, but let's just say weight loss, right? Let's say you're a weight loss coach. The method that you teach would be, not talking about like a unique mechanism of like this specific, revolutionary thing, but the method would be, for example, let's say like the carnivore diet. So they need to be sold that the carnivore diet is the best possible way for them to reach their goals, right? So let's say, again, if you're a carnivore diet teacher or coach, is your content needs to sell them on why this is the best possible way to help them reach their goals of weight loss. And the product is basically, what you sell, right? So they need to be sold on you as a person. They need to be sold on the method, and they need to be sold on the product itself. Now, keep in mind with marketing, and I'll go a little bit deeper on this as we go through those other pieces, is these 2 things right here are the hardest things to sell, right? If we're talking about Facebook ads, for example, and we're going back to why cold versus organic and why it's a lot easier on the organic side, is cold, by the time they get on a sales call with you, is they are really not sold on any of these things, right? You can try to sell them into it, but when they see an ad, they don't really know who you are. You bring them to, let's say, a VSL page, they're kind of sold, but they're like iffy on these 2 things. They don't know what this is because the product, more often than not, is sold on the actual call itself. With organic, right, through a YouTube channel, is they get very sold on these 2 things. So I really want you to keep these things in mind as we go into the next thing. I won't reveal what it is, but the next piece is going to be very important that you understand what these 2 things are, or what these 3 things are, because your life and your business is on easy mode when you can free sell them on all these things before they come on a call, versus them not understanding those things and jumping on a call with you and you having to do the heavy lifting, or your salesperson have to do all the heavy lifting on selling them all these things. There's a hint. You can pre-sell them on these 2 very, very hard when you have a YouTube channel. But let's jump back and we'll jump into the next piece. Okay, so now that we fully understand you, method, and product, I'm gonna erase this so we'll have some room to write some more notes here in a second. But next up, we have sales. So when we're talking about sales, specifically what we're talking about is you have a much higher close rate and a close percentage on YouTube versus literally everything else. So the data that I have to back this is we have literally spreadsheets that tracks everything. Like most people that I show our spreadsheets to, like it's pretty insane. We have probably 6 or 7 people full time. All they do is update spreadsheets on a daily basis. So from a sales perspective, if we're really comparing, we'll just say cold traffic, right? So cold could be like basically cold ads, right? So ads on YouTube, ads on Instagram, whatever it may be. So our close percentage for cold ads was 0.9%. Right? And that's lead to close. So basically what it means, anyone that put in their information, so we'll just put lead to close. Anyone that became a lead that actually closed into a deal. And we'll just use 9,800 as our basic price point. So 0.9% lead to close ratio. With YouTube specifically, our lead to close ratio is 9%. So 0.9 to 9%, essentially 8.9% higher. We're converting 8.9% more people from YouTube than cold ads, which is, I mean, if you know anything about data, that is a massive increase. And I'll give you guys, for IG specifically, the lead to close is about 4%. So even with Instagram, right, both of these being organic, I don't want to keep that one out. So YouTube is even twice as good as Instagram is specifically. And it really all comes back to the whole you method and product thing, is when someone is watching these videos, by the time they get on a sales call, right, if you think about it, if someone is seeing a cold ad on Facebook, at the very beginning of it, by the time they get on the call with you, they might be a little bit sold on you and they might be a little bit sold on the actual method itself, but nowhere near a YouTube video, right? With a VSL or something, you're selling them right out for 15 minutes. With YouTube, they could be watching hours upon hours upon hours of your content. So they're so sold on you and the method. By the time they get on the sales call, all you really need to do is sell that product, which by the way, as I talked about earlier, is the hardest thing to sell is trust in you and trust in the method, right? So when they're already sold on those two things, by the time they get on the sales call with you, that explains why this 9% is so freaking high. Now, another reason I want you to keep this in mind, and we will talk about it in one of these other ones down here, I don't want to spoil it too much, but when you can show this specific data or just show that like, okay, we close way higher on YouTube leads than anything else, when you have a big YouTube channel, it makes one of these other things way easier. So I'm not gonna reveal it just yet, but let's jump into number 3. So if we reveal this one to you guys, number 3 is fulfillment. So fulfillment, essentially all that means is you actually fulfilling on your product. So I'm going to bring this back to the whole, we'll just use YMP. So that's you method product. So by the time they jump into your program, right, when they're coming from YouTube, is they're sold on you, they're sold on method, and obviously they're sold on the product because they have now become a client. The thing is though, is because the sell on you and the method, because they're so sold on that, let's just say, for example, you're a health coach and you sell that the ketogenic diet is the best thing. They're so sold on those things that because there's so much trust here, they're going to do everything in their power to implement in what you teach them. Versus, let's say they're coming from Facebook, right? We'll say, or again, when I say Facebook, just think of this as cold, right? Cold traffic that doesn't come from YouTube or organic or anything, is they might kind of be sold on you, but this is going to be a little bit shaky, and this is probably going to be shaky as well. So because they're not fully really bought into this as much as over on this side, I don't know why I just did that, because they're not as sold on this side, is the fulfillment, and we even do this as like success rate, is not going to be as high because there's just that skepticism, right? There's always going to be something in the back of their head that's like, I don't know if this is going to be the best thing because I've seen like this other ad, and whatever. But because they've consumed so much of your content on YouTube, is they're already so sold on it. They're sold on you, they're sold on the method, and they're ready to take action. And as a byproduct, it makes fulfillment easier. So your coaches are more happy. You're more happy, right? Because you're not, getting a bunch of refund requests and unhappy people. And you're going to see a much higher success rate, which is ultimately going to increase your conviction, right? Which ultimately is then going to lead back to your sales, because higher success rate here is going to help people get more sales here. And it's going to make also your marketing a lot easier because you have so many wins and so much conviction that your product could actually help. So as you can see, everything trickles upstream when you start and have a really great YouTube channel. So this number 4 one I've been alluding to, and this is, I have a lot to say on this one because it's going to be really great for you guys. And that is, it makes recruiting a million times easier. So with recruiting, right? What I mean by that is people coming in and wanting to work with you. And I'll just give, I was watching a YouTube video. It was with either Alex or Layla Hermosi. I think they've both talked about this concept. And they said that before they had their personal brands built, right, on YouTube and Instagram and all that kind of stuff, is it made it really difficult for them to hire because no one really knew who they were. They were just another company, right? So if there was a salesperson or a marketing person or C-suite executive, whatever it was, right, they could literally just go work for anyone. But when they started to become famous, right, when they started building their brands, is now people got to understand who they were, the culture that they're building, right, the level at which they perform, right, their work ethic and things like that. So they started to build this persona that someone would want to learn from, right? They want to learn from that person. And they also became, you know, if you're comparing them versus, let's say, like a CEO at a massive company, they're probably never going to even get in front of that CEO or be able to, be able to learn from and grow from them, those people specifically. But as a byproduct of creating this one-sided relationship, right, this parasocial relationship through these YouTube videos, is now they feel like they do know that person. So like, I would love to work with that person, right? Back to the whole, the you method and product is like, you're basically selling even people that are going to work with you on those three things. Now, if we're breaking these things down and why this is just so freaking important, guys, and having a big brand and a YouTube channel will help out, is it will help you hire for all these things. So for example, when you are on YouTube and you're so convicted and passionate about your specific way and method, right, it makes fulfillment of because, these people, let's say you're hiring a coach, right? This coach, the potential coach, right, the client success manager or whatever it is they are going to see, oh, there's all these wins. Like, they're really convicted on your specific product. So now it's going to make their life a million times easier and not only fulfilling, right, and being a coach within that specific product, but also it leads to higher client results, right? Because they're already bought into it. So when your team is bought into it because you've built so much conviction from your YouTube channel, it's going to help you get the best possible people here for fulfillment. Sales is huge, and this is going to go like really deep, but just stay with me here. Is when you have a YouTube channel, or we'll just say organic, like an organic following in general, this is now becoming like a gold standard and because we run a recruiting company, right? We're probably interviewing 200 to 300 people every single month, or I'm sorry, no, we're placing 200 to 300 people every single month. We're interviewing like thousands of people a month. And one of the biggest things that sales reps are looking for right now is the offers that they actually sell on. Do they have an organic following, right? Do they have a YouTube channel? Do they have an Instagram? Because they understand that there's a lot of people out there that either have a personal brand or are building out their personal brand. And they understand, back to what we talked about earlier, they understand that the close rate is higher and the leads are warmer. So if we have two different offers and one has a personal brand and one doesn't have a personal brand, they're going after the one that has a personal brand every single time because their life is just easier, right? And the people are already sold. They're coming into it. They're going to close at higher percentages and they're going to make more money. So it's just so mandatory at this point that you have a personal brand because you're just going to get the bottom of the barrel salespeople. It just is what it is, right? And from a marketing perspective, if you have a media buyer coming in, or you have a copywriter or whatever, if you already have a YouTube channel and organic built out, is they come into a ton of resources they can use, and they know that marketing numbers are going to be way better because you have that. Like, when you have a brand, right? When you have a YouTube channel, everything, as I'm talking about, it makes it so much easier, right? I'm getting like really pumped up and excited here because I want you guys to understand how, like, this isn't just like, oh, I'm going to generate more leads. It means so much more than that. So anyway, let's jump into number 5 as I'm getting excited here, and finance, right? So finance and this is actually really cool because we've tracked a lot of stuff here. From a finance perspective, and we're looking at cold leads versus YouTube leads. Cold lead, there's two main things that I want you guys to take away from here. And there's really more than this, but these are the two main things, right? We're going to talk about cash collected, and we're going to talk about refunds. So you guys probably understand where I'm getting at here, but if we're looking at YouTube versus Facebook, right? Cash collected on YouTube is astronomically higher. If I pulled up a spreadsheet, I'd probably show you guys the data specifically, but I just know that cash collected is significantly higher, right? If we're talking about percentage per deal, right? Cash collected per deal, way higher when from YouTube versus Facebook. And refunds, we almost had no refunds. If we were talking about like when I had the Remote Closing Academy YouTube channel, we almost had no refunds when it came to YouTube, because if we go back to the You method product, is because they're already sold on You in the method, is they're not going to ask for a refund. And there's a little psychology thing that plays in here as well, is when they feel like they know you and they feel like they like you and they feel like they trust you, is it's almost like you would go to a random person and ask them for a refund versus going going to like a friend, for example. It just like there's that psychology or that social kind of like that social norm, I guess, for lack of a better word, that comes into play because they just feel weird asking for that refund because they feel like they're your friend, right? They feel like they're much closer to you. So just an added thing in here is, and I'm not saying just do one or the other, but just understand that cash collected is much higher. Refunds are much lower when it comes to having a YouTube channel and having a brand. All right, so last but not least, let's talk about bonus, right? What is the bonus tip here? Why is it like all by itself? Well, this is like the ultimate, just really all-encompassing reason why I believe it's super important to build a personal brand, and that is longevity. So longevity in the sense of it allows you to stay around in business way longer, and it makes your life a million times easier to launch products. So I'm going to tell you a couple different stories of creators that I've seen, that I've known, that have done this really well. And if you think about any big creator, you've seen this happen, right? Mr. Beast is a really obvious example. If he launches anything, any product, it is an immediate success. Why? Because he built a brand around him, right? If you think about, he has his first he launched like his chocolate company, right? That exploded. And then he had his Beast Burgers. That exploded. I don't think that one's around anymore, but that exploded, right? Because he was able to, he has his brand and people are buying it. He partnered with KSI and Logan Paul, which they did Lunchly. And then if you talk about them, they have Prime, right? They have their own specific products. So that's one example. There's another guy in the space, his name is Iman Ghazi. So he's kind of built a brand. He initially, this is a great example of it, is he's kind of taken 3 separate approaches, right, in his whole, or maybe more than that, but really like 3 separate approaches when it comes to him making money around his brand. So at the very beginning, he had his brand and he was building it around SMMA, right, teaching people how to his brand he was using to generate clients for his social media marketing agency. Then he was like, okay, let me teach other people how to do this. So he did a switch in his brand, right? He switched his brand. He had the same YouTube channel, but now he was then teaching people how to do that all under his same YouTube channel, which again, when he switched those products and switched those markets, he was then able to continue what he was doing, right? It didn't sell from his brand. Then he was like, let me jump into the space of remote closing. He started, teaching this remote closing and more teaching people like overall skills. So he transitioned from that into this second thing because he had his audience there and he knew how to market it correctly. He sold a bunch of people in that. And then recently, he's completely switched from, that whole B2C market to B2B and teaching them how to build personal brands because he's probably one of the best people to talk about it because he's built his brand on YouTube so massively that now he has the track record in order to teach people how to do that, right? So I can go on and on about a bunch of different examples, but when you have a YouTube channel, when you have a brand, it just creates this thing where you can no longer fail, right? Because if you just continue to be consistent with your brand and on YouTube or whatever platforms you're building, it doesn't matter what, and as long as you stay genuine with it, right? Like there's a lot of people that will sell out and, sell things that aren't specific to their brand. And then, the Haktua thing, if you saw that, is a great example of that, right? Don't do crypto scams. I mean, if you build out a brand, it's probably the easiest way to throw this all into the garbage, but it really ultimately helps from a longevity standpoint. So this video obviously is all about, why YouTube is super important for you. If you want to check out the video on screen, it's going to go a lot more in detail, like, okay, what is the next steps to ensure that I see success on YouTube? So check that out there. Also click the link down in the description if you want my direct help and really holding your hand to creating a YouTube channel to begin to make money and put your business on easy mode. Click the link down in the description and we'll see you there.